Hello, how's it going? So today is one of those days where the DIY projects that I'm working on, none of them are anywhere near like done or anything, so I'm a bit stumped of what to talk about. So I was like, what the heck do I talk about today? And then it struck me, I never really spoke about a certain admiration for a certain synthesizer. It's called the Prophet 600. As you can see, this Prophet 600 has, been through the works a little bit. It's got a few keys missing here and there. I don't know what it is about this certain synthesizer, but the keys are proper brittle, and this one was lost at a gig, this one was lost at a gig, this one broke at a gig. I've never had, like, smash off keyboards, but this one, they're all going. And this one's even on its way out, and I haven't yet bothered replacing them because, it doesn't matter. Sometimes I do need to play that note, and I kind of go like this, and then just put my little finger in and push on the membrane. So let's elaborate on the story a little bit. This Prophet 600 I got just under 2 years ago. I got it because I needed a polyphonic synthesizer. I had a Juno 106 which I didn't have anymore and I really missed it. The thing about the Juno 106 was it was a simple sounding bread and butter polyphonic subtractive synthesizer, but the best thing about it was really usable. All of the knobs and stuff did what the knobs did and there wasn't much extra controls. There was presets and all that naff stuff, but I never used that because, like, why would you use presets on a synth that has about 15 to 20 controls? Like, why don't you just change the controls? So I was kind of umming and ahhing about getting a Juno 106 and it was sort of getting a little bit extortionate, a little bit expensive, and it was like, I was also looking at Juno 6s, but the saddest thing about those ones is they don't have portamento, which is really sad. Juno 60, what's the point? It's only got extra presets. Who needs presets, like I said, on something that's got 20 controls? What's the point? And I found this on Gumtree, and after a bit of back and forth with the seller, I remember at the time thinking this is probably a bad idea because looking at forums and stuff, these things were getting scathing reviews. Which now I have one, I don't really understand why it's getting the scathing reviews because it's definitely one of the best ones I've played on, and I'll explain why in a moment. So the Prophet 600 came out after the Prophet 5 in 1982, and for all intents and purposes it's reasonably similar to the Prophet 5. Even the last revisions of the Prophet 5 had a very similar voice. So as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty much a Prophet 5. So when I first got this synthesizer, it was working all right. In the years before I got it, apparently it wasn't used a massive amount, and then suddenly when I got it, it was used for a few hours nearly every day. So I kind of put this old bit of wood and metal through its paces. I've used it for its sound on many of my songs, as well as like playing it live and stuff like that. So the first thing that I did with this was replace the original Z80 chip with the Glee mod, which basically makes this synthesizer into a proper usable synth. With the old original software, yes, it is a little bit clunky and I can sort of understand why it gets a bad name. However, when you put this Glee mod in, which is basically just a teensy chip that is a tiny little bit reconfigured, it turns it into, in my opinion, one of the best classic synthesizers around. So after doing the Glee mod, I had about 6 months of being a happy camper, like playing on tours and stuff. It was working, there was no complaints. And then at some point, I can't remember exactly when, in my winter tour last year, it started to go a little bit pear-shaped. An intermittent problem started occurring, where at some point in between half an hour to an hour of it being on, you would push the keys down, it would go and it was just awful, and it just started happening more and more slowly throughout this tour, to the point that at the end it was becoming unusable and I couldn't really play the songs that were relying on a polyphonic synthesizer. So I ended up trying to fix it. I tried a load of different things. I think I started by replacing the voltage regulators, the capacitors, having a look through the whole thing. Cleaning the potentiometers was the next step, and still nothing was working. I changed a few chips here and there. Finally, about 2 weeks ago, I found the problem. There's 2 multiplexer chips on the front panels. These multiplexer chips jobs are basically taking all of the signals from all of the potentiometers on the front panel and compressing these down into using less wires to go over to the brains of the synthesizer. After about half an hour of use at times, these would start sending out just gobbledygook, and it didn't really make sense. So I just replaced them, and hey presto, after that, It works perfectly! This morning I actually replaced the battery in there because I took the battery out quite a while back and it turns out I completely forgot to put a battery in. I was like, why isn't it remembering my tuning setting? Anyway, let's quit the spiel. I'll show you what I like about it. So let's have a look at, in my opinion, one of the best polyphonic synths. Just remember that these are my opinions and usually my opinions are pretty naff, so just take them with a pinch of salt. So this isn't the most complex synthesizer in the world and I think that definitely works to its favour. Like, you don't buy a guitar for how many knobs it has. You gotta buy a guitar for, you know, how it plays and how it sounds. And that's something I think is overlooked with synthesizers. There's a lot of people who are like, yeah, like it's really versatile. You can get like every single sound in the world out of this. The piano sound is really good. You can make it sound like a walrus farting in the distance. All of that crap. It's like, why? Why do you want this to be like the most versatile thing? Versatility usually means it's a jack of all trades. There are things that you're weighing up. And this thing, I don't think particularly is kind of dancing a line between usability and versatility. This thing isn't that versatile at all. It's just a bread and butter subtractive synthesizer and it does what you need and it's very usable. Let's have a look. So over here is the program section. Gotta be honest, don't like this bit at all. It's a bit naff. The arpeggiator, it's alright. You turn it on, you turn it off. It's nice and quick. It's pretty simple. You don't have to menu dive, but it hasn't got extra octaves. So I don't think it's the most musical arpeggiator in the world. You're able to store presets, but I just don't understand why you would bother storing presets because it's only got like 20 controls. So if you remember the two sounds, you can basically flick between them in a matter of seconds. The Gleegly mod means that you have extra controls inside the menu section here, and you can see I've actually written them out on Dymo on the top, but I've got to be honest, I don't really use them that much because it's still a bit of menu diving. The only thing that I really jump on and use for this is the glide control because glide is a fine invention. So this is its endearing little feature that is the bad part of the 80s. Whatever, it's there. It's got a tune mode which tunes all of the oscillators and filters. Okay, it's a little bit time consuming. I've never really had to use the tune feature a massive amount. When it's warmed up, it seems to stay in tune, but maybe that's because I'm tone deaf. So this synthesizer is like the Prophet 5. It comes with two oscillators. The first oscillator, which is just an oscillator. The great thing about the Gleegly mod is it actually makes the frequencies usable. You can select between it being an octave, completely free, or semitones. I think without the Gleegly mod, it's absolutely awful because you can't select octaves. So you've got ramp, you've got triangle, you've got square wave, whatever comes out of the CEM 3340 chip. Let's use the LFO to modulate the square wave. Oh yeah. My one complaint about the Gleegly mod is the fact that these two knobs here, which originally this bottom one was the glide feature, which would be amazing if it was still on a knob. It's so annoying that this you have to go and adjust it over there, but whatever. But now this is the level for the oscillator B and this is the level for the oscillator A. You've obviously just got a low pass filter, which is, you know, bread and butter. It is what it is. It's just a standard style CEM filter and sounds like a filter. It is what it is. It's that. By the way, I'm not a keyboard player. I'm a guitarist that likes nursery rhymes, so do expect C major here. Then you've got a separate filter for the VCA. Putting the LFO, putting the oscillators, putting the filter and the VCA together, you basically get the sounds of a subtractive polyphonic synthesizer that you sort of expect and want from something like this. We're going to detune the unison, turn up the glide a little bit. But then you can go further. It's got sync, for instance. And then using the polymod to make the filter sound a bit funky on top as well, like. But yes, you can get bigger, more better polyphonic synthesizers, modern or classic. But for me, I don't see the point. I don't really get the versatility argument. In my opinion, you get a synthesizer for something that it does well. It's better just doing one thing well and not being complicated instead of somebody going, how do I make it do this? In my opinion, it does sound quite a bit different to the Roland polysynthesizers. I think that's down to the filter and just the way it's laid out. There are certain aspects that I do think Roland polysynthesizers of this time sounded better at, but this still does the job. It's very usable. You can change the sounds quite quickly. It's very hard to make it sound absolutely rubbish, which is a very important thing for playing live. You know, you may have all of these knobs and all of these parameters and stuff, but if you twist a knob and it accidentally starts sounding like a dog climaxing on your leg, it's not exactly a usable polyphonic synthesizer. Like I said, there was some reliability issues with this one, but if you do get a similar garbage sound like definitely have a look at those multiplexers. The audio recordings from this video are able to download, so you can chop up and sample hits and stuff from them over on my Patreon. So if there's some, and needless to say, the Patreon has loads of other samples and stuff, and it also supports the endeavour of making these machines and also opening the museum of everything else very soon. Anyway, I've been Luke Mum No Computer. That was a Prophet 600. If you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe and don't be scared to try it.